As always, call Allah Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai Waharakakwadash. Shalom to the Israel of God, to the hopeful elect men out there teaching and preaching the gospel, enduring in the faith, namely, starting with the elders over the Great Millstone Church, to the men who are on down teaching the same doctrine, and that's the correct, true doctrine of the scriptures. And as always, shalom to you brothers that I labor with daily, So I'm gonna just kick it off here in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 14. And matter of fact, we might start up. I'm gonna start at verse 13. It says, "For such are false apostles." Right? So this word apostle means to be sent out into the world to preach, to teach, to be a form of light unto the nation. And that nation being the nation of Israel, us so-called black people, as we're called, so-called Latinos, or so-called Negroes, first and foremost, Latinos, Native American, Indian people that are scattered amongst the earth, mainly. But you Israelites, those whose paternal, meaning the lineage on your father's side goes back, to one of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right, according to truth and not, secular knowledge, worldly knowledge. But back to this, for such are false apostles. So there's many false men sent out, and they're not sent of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, but ultimately of the devil, to preach things that, ought not to be taught. So I'm going to come here to the book of Titus chapter 1 and around the 13th verse real quick. It says, "This witness is true, wherefore rebuke them sharply." Right, so we're supposed to rebuke sharply anything that is in opposition to the true doctrine of these scriptures. And we're supposed to do it sharply. So you're supposed to tell when things are off, when they're off, and you correct them. All right. And it says, "This witness is true, wherefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith." So yeah, we looking for things that are sound. Those are the things that you're supposed to take hold of and run with, to keep. So when things aren't sound and when they're off, they're supposed to be rebuked. Even if it's yourself, first and foremost, that's what you need to be doing, rebuking yourself to be correct and the things that you're doing right at, and don't be a hypocrite and rebuke things that you may be doing wrong. You correct yourself and then you can go forth and correct others, get your house right, and then you can go help others. But that's not the point. I'm going to read it again, though. Titus 1 and 13, "This witness is true, wherefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith, not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth." So it's all about the correct doctrine, the truth. So when we see things off, we have to say something. And it's something that's been ongoing, for some time now. But I say more zoned in the last few weeks. Moreover, especially, being zoned in over, this way, but amongst all the men who, are under the correct, doctrine of the scriptures. Ultimately speaking of the men who follow the doctrine that's taught by the elder apostles over at the GMS church, right? So not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth. And a lot of those men are men who started under the elders over the GMS church. So they're turning away from what's right to go out and do their own thing because they found their own reason and own purpose to be in the truth. And it's simply things that are outside of the truth. They're looking for gain. Some men looking for, whatever it may be, views, clicks, to have a following. Some just do it because they just like disorder. It's fun to, just make a mockery of things. Some men just been led astray. And, Satan got them. But it's just so many different avenues you can go outside of being in reality, which is the truth. But I want to continue. It says, unto the pure, all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. So no matter how much these dudes go out and say, no matter how much they promote and they sound good, if they're not of pure, nothing's going to come forth that is pure. It's not going to be real. It's not going to be the truth. It says, but even their mind and conscience is defiled. So yeah, they've been completely overtaken. And I'm gonna read that in the NLT, Titus chapter 1 and 15. Everything is pure to those whose hearts are pure. Your heart is your mind. So it's about having a sound mind, something that hasn't been taken away. Right? Being a reprobate, one who turns away from doing what they know they ought to be doing. So they learned the truth, but throughout time, on the straight path, they veered off into the wide, and broad way. And a lot of them do it unbeknownstly, but a lot of them doing it and they do know they're off. Again, they just seeking things of their own mind, continuing. But nothing is pure to those who are corrupt and unbelieving. And it all starts with being corrupt and then what? Unbelieving. You don't truly believe. And that's why you got to change the doctrine. That's why you got to find, hiccups and flaws, if you will. Seek for those things so you can go forth and be, the face of that. It's just crazy. It says, because their minds and consciences are corrupted. They profess that they know Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate. Right? NLT. Such people claim they know Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, but they deny him by the way they live. Just living in falsehood, teaching falsehood, and everything you do is for views, it's for likes, under all your videos, all your dang monetization, ways to, monetize the truth is clear when you have eyes that see. And that's ultimately what this lesson was going to, because ultimately I wasn't meaning to go into this, but it's the spirit. It says they are detestable and disobedient, worthless for doing anything good. So I'm going to see. Yeah, this is all it. I should have started a little bit further up because this was really what I wanted. Verse 10, it says, for there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision. I mean, that's the spirit, because the circumcision are those who know the truth. They know they're Israelites. At least they claim to be so. It says, whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things they ought not for filthy lucre's sake. So they here for the wrong reason, right? But their mouths need to be stopped. But that's literally going to the ultimate point why I want to bring forth this lesson. It just sort of went to a different direction, but that's how the spirit works. It blow it where it listed. 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 13, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Hamashiach. So yeah, they out here teaching false doctrine and trying to look, because they, physically look the part, they try to deceive those, the sheep who truly want to learn and truly want to know. And they're going to be punished for that. But they're false apostles. But ultimately, through the Spirit, also, as the Lord Yahweh Shai said himself, those be blind leaders of the blind. So those who follow these men and stay with it, because some people go hear the shit they teach and they go turn their way. It says those be blind leaders of the blind. They both go fall into a ditch, just paraphrasing the scripture. So them and their followers are ultimately of the same stock. They're some people just meant to go off and be, off. They're not meant, to be on the straight and narrow. So it is what it is. We know these things exist, but you continue. But continue, verse 14, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. So this is what inspired, want to bring forth this lesson, reading in scripture. What came to mind was the thought that, sometimes in the dark things aren't exactly what they seem. It's like turning your light off in a room and you look over, you see a shadow or something. It look like it look like more than what it actually is. But this earth, giving it to the hands of the wicked, so it's under a dark, you know, leadership. Therefore, everything amongst us is like covered in darkness, if you will. And it's gonna get real dark here, literally. But it's darkness surrounding you. So yeah, things don't seem as they are always. But when you have the light, you're able to see. And that light is the light of Yahweh Shai, the word, these scriptures, the understanding, the true understanding of the scriptures. So yeah, these certain men, they have certain things, they look a certain way, they look like they got it, they look like they thriving, they flourishing, they consistent, they're persistent, they got Bibles, you know, but ultimately they're not who they say they are. So you're supposed to be content in knowing this truth. And it don't have to come with some kind of, packaging. It's not packaged. It's rough. The men looking for sincere souls. Those who truly just get the truth and they live it. It's not the truth when the lights and cameras and action come on. Only when you on the highways and hedges. But when the cameras go off, you still in the scriptures. You still keeping the Lord in your mind. That's what it's all about, because that's the true light. Let me see. Yeah. Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 8, it says, "For ye were sometimes in darkness." Yeah, because we was born into this world, given into the hands of the wicked. So we was born, many of us not knowing who we were. Thought we was black at one point. Thought we was Negroes. Thought we was all of these different avenues. A rapper, an athlete, you want to be an entertainer, whatever it may be that you was into, which is all darkness because it's not ultimately of truth, first and foremost. We use this world, we don't abuse it. To abuse it is to truly believe that this place is sustainable and that you're going to be in it forever. So we use it while we're here for what it's worth. But first and foremost comes what? Knowing Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, knowing you're Israel, knowing that is much more to come, and being prepared for that and putting that first and foremost in your mind. And the Lord said, I'll just get it real quick in the book of Psalms. Psalms chapter 1 and verse 3. It says, "And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water." The tree is synonymous with men, with people specifically, the Israelites. And the water is what? The words, the wisdom, ultimately the knowledge and understanding. It says that bringing forth his fruit in his season. And fruit is what? Something is good. It's a produce. It's a product of, what's good. His leaf also shall never wither. You're going to be continuous in this. It says, "And whatsoever he doeth shall prosper." The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore, the ungodly shall not stand in judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of righteous. For the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. So everything we spoke about in the beginning of this is the end of the wicked, the end of the, these unrighteous rulers, these false prophets, these false apostles, these niggas who, come into the truth and fakes, they got to go. And thus saith the Lord. And the point is really in verse 2, but I'm going to start at verse 1. "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly and in darkness, nor standeth in the way of sinners." That's more darkness. "Nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord," the law of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and the commandments, the understanding of the commandments and the doing of them, which is making you what? Wise. "And in his law doth he meditate day and night." Right? Verse 3. "And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, Salak, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper." So yeah, whatever you do prospers when you're in the Lord, when you're truly walking and living accordingly. but the ways of the sinners are not, not so. Back to Ephesians chapter 5 and 8, for ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. So through Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, we had a light. We know the way. We know what's right. We know what's wrong. And we choose the correct way. Walk as children of light. So yeah, we're supposed to walk. Our daily, our goings, our dealings are supposed to be as children of light. So we uphold that example of light. And we continue in it. We be an example of it. We teach it. We do all according to the measure that the Lord gave us, according to the lot the Lord gave us. But yeah, I'm gonna finish through 10 and then close out. It says, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. So yeah, everything isn't as it seems in the dark. So don't get lost or stuck in this place. Understand that we constantly battling against the darkness of this world. Even when something seems like it may be, light or good, you just realize, it's an opportunity that is not what it seems. So always use wisdom, use your understanding, pray, because the Lord, he'll make things clear. Pray for discernment, and through the Spirit, I'm just gonna say that's all. Lord willing, there's something that's useful, edifying to the flocks out there. But with that, I'm just gonna say, Lord willing, again, this was edifying. But next time, shalom.